Hi there. It's August the 25th, and today we're concluding our journey through Paul's first letter to the Corinthians with chapter 16, reading from verses 1 to 24. Paul opens this last chapter of the letter with an encouragement to the Corinthians to collect together the contributions that they're making, that Paul is gathering actually from across all the churches he knows for the blessing and for the help of the church in Jerusalem. So he's written to other churches as well, and he says the Galatians are doing this, and he's going to be traveling through and taking, helping to collect up, and also he's encouraging them to be ready to send people to Jerusalem to travel with the contributions, with the financial contributions that they're making for the help of the church in Jerusalem. And he says to them to do this regularly. So he says, do this on the first day of the week when you gather together, and also do this in proportion. There's a regularity about it, so that he doesn't have to make a big appeal and start begging for money when he comes. And he is intending, it says Paul is intending, he's writing this, I think we know from this, he's writing this letter from Ephesus, where he's been in Western Turkey, but his intention is to cross over into mainland Europe and to come up through Macedonia, travel through the north and travel down to Corinth, and hopefully to come to them, and then they can send him on where he wants to go. There seems to be a lot of movement going on within the churches as well. Paul commends to them Timothy, that if Timothy comes, he'll be representing Paul. Timothy will be coming from Ephesus as well, and if Timothy comes before Paul, that they've to receive Timothy. Remember, Paul says to Timothy in his letter, don't let anyone despise your youth. Because he's coming with experience, he's coming with grace upon him. It's not a question of how old he is. And so Paul encourages Corinth to receive Timothy. He also says that Apollos wants to come, but he doesn't know if Apollos is going to make it, because he, for one reason or another, he's been held back. We get the picture of this connection in relationship that's going on, this continual movement about. And then lastly, Paul commends to them, or Paul commends Stephanas, and probably Stephanas are the ones, he's one of the ones who's come to Paul to visit him in Ephesus, along with Fortunatus and Achaicus. They've come to visit Paul and maybe brought the letter from the Corinthians to which Paul is replying, but Paul commends him to them as being, Paul commends him to the Corinthians as being faithful, and probably Stephanas and Fortunatus and Achaicus are carrying back the letter that Paul is now writing. And Paul ends this letter with, often as he often does, in his own handwriting. Remember, this letter, most letters Paul sent were written through an amanuensis. They were written through a scribe, a professional writer who would make the most of the paper. But it seems that Paul is taking the pen at this point, and he is making his own mark, and so they would recognize his handwriting. He also uses a phrase which is an Aramaic phrase, Maranatha, the Lord is coming, kind of indicates that it's Paul that's writing. He's writing in his own language, his own mother tongue, for a couple of things, and he's also encouraging them to stay within the grace of God, and he's also dismissing any other gospel that is being shared. Relationship is obviously so important to Paul in this situation. He's not a solo artist. He's not working off his own bat. He's working in harmony and in communion with these other brothers and sisters, and he has the grace to commend them to the Corinthian church. Let us be thankful, therefore, that God has put us into a community, into a communion of people which reflects his togetherness, it reflects his usness. And Paul is grateful for that, as we see in this last chapter of Corinthians. Have a very good August the 25th.